Hello. It's a pleasure to be back here once more. How many of you heard me last year? Whoa! Oh, okay. Well, last year I told you about my job in hypnosis. Today, I'm going to tell you how to be an optimist. Now, looking at this room, I reckon we've got quite a few optimists already. So let's do a little survey of the room. If there were 6 categories of thinking style, number 1 was a supreme pessimist. Number 2 was a moderate pessimist. And number 3 was a mild pessimist. Number 4 was a mild optimist. Number 5 is a moderate optimist. And number 6 is a supreme optimist. Show of hands, please. Who reckons that they're a number 1 severe pessimist?
My wife says I am.
Oh. We've got one honest man in the room. Who reckons that they're a number 2, a moderate pessimist? Yeah. Who reckons that they're a number 3, a mild pessimist? A few more hands coming up. Who reckons they're a number 4, a mild optimist? Even more hands go up. Number 5, a moderate optimist. The majority of the hands. Number 6, a supreme optimist. Okay. So it appears that this audience believes that they're on this side of the equation, the optimistic side of the equation. Well, in the next half an hour, I want to convince you that you're all deluded. Because the vast majority of New Zealanders are on the pessimistic side of the ledger. Now, the person who knows most about this is an American psychologist called Martin Seligman. Professor Martin Seligman from Chicago. And he's written a fascinating book that I recommend. And it's called Learned Optimism. And in the book he describes what he calls our attributional style. Now it turns out when something happens, good or bad, we attribute reason, meaning, purpose. We think, why has this happened? Now this process of asking why begins from the age of 2. What do 90% of a 2-year-old's questions begin with? Why? Why is the sky blue? Why is the sky grey? Why are the clouds white or grey? It's very hard to answer those questions. And by age 3 we say with them, please, no more why questions. But they don't stop thinking them. And we don't stop answering them. And as adults, there are actually 3 dimensions to the answer. And Seligman calls them the 3 P's. P for personal, permanent, and pervasive. Pervasive meaning widespread. Or their opposites, which would be impersonal, temporary, and specific. Now let me give you an example of a number 1 and a number 6. And see which thinking style you agree with. Let's give you a scenario. Say someone is working in a job and the boss hands them a note. And the note says, you're sacked, you're fired, you're dismissed, get out of here. Now that's bad news. The pessimist takes it personally. They think, well, why is he saying that? Why have I got the note? What did I do wrong? What did I stuff up? What mistake did I make to be sacked? They assume it's their fault. The optimist, on the other hand, is thinking, well, I knew the firm was in trouble. No, what do you expect with the rise in the dollar? What do you expect with that Labour government? I knew that boss hated me. They never take the blame for it. It's always something else or someone else's fault. That's the category of a supreme optimist. In terms of permanency, the pessimist thinks, I might never get another job. Or not one as good as this one. I might have to leave town to get a job. I might even have to go to Australia to get a job. Whereas the optimist thinks, I've had 4 jobs already. I'm sure I could find a 5th one. I'll tat up the CV. I might even go across to Brisbane. Here's some great jobs going over there. This could be a blessing in disguise. So for them it's just a temporary setback. In terms of pervasiveness, the pessimist is thinking, well, I'm a failure. I haven't got a job to go to on Monday. And I'm a failure as, not just as a worker, but as a husband, as a son, as a father, as a friend, as a bowler. I'm useless. Optimist, on the other hand, thinks, oh, bummer, lost my job. But at least still got on well with the wife, still got on well with my parents, still got on well with the children, still got on playing goals. Yep, I'm a good person, just happens to be out of a job. So they managed to make the bad news quite specific. But when good news comes along, this whole style of thinking flips around. So say, for instance, the boss hands over a note, but this time the note says, here is a bonus cheque. And beside it there's a cheque for $3,000. Totally unexpected. Now that's good news. Now you remember the pessimist took the bad news personally. Well, I can guarantee you that the pessimist will take the good news impersonally. Gee, the firm must have made a record profit this year. Oh, my department must have won that big contract. Or if it's a gorgeous woman, can you imagine what she thinks? A bonus? Why am I the only one getting the bonus? What does the boss expect in return? And why is he smiling when he hands it over? Does he reckon he's going to get a bonus? Yeah. Whereas the optimist is thinking, of course I get a bonus. I get a bonus because I'm the best worker here. I get a bonus because I'm fantastic at this job. I got the bonus because I'm the greatest salesperson this firm's ever had. When was the last time you ever heard a Kiwi talking like that? Huh? You try talking like that in any New Zealand workplace and see what happens to you. Tall poppy. We know you come from Balclutha. Enough said. Or Ekadahuna. In terms of permanency, the pessimist thinks, a bonus cheque in May. Well, that's weird. We'd only get a pre-Christmas bonus. Oh, wait a minute. I take it that means there won't be a Christmas bonus. You'd never get 2 bonuses in the 1 year. That's never happened before. And how come I'm the only person that's getting the bonus now? Does that mean I'm going to be sacked before Christmas? Optimists, on the other hand, is thinking, wow, $3,000 for the best salesman in May. Just imagine what the Christmas bonus is going to be like. Oh! And come August, they've got promotion round at work. Guess who's an odds-on certainty to be getting promotion? Oh, this is going to be a great year. And in terms of pervasiveness, the pessimist is thinking, Well, I'm driving home with a bonus cheque in my pocket, but my car still rattles. 3,000 won't buy me a new car, won't even get me a new engine. And I'm driving home to a relationship that's on the rocks.
And the cheque might bounce.
Yeah. Money can't buy you love. So what will I have when the money's all gone? A second-rate car and a second-rate relationship and a funny man in the audience. Yeah. Whereas the optimist, now particularly if it's a bloke, because I've got no idea how women think. So my wife tells me. And she's absolutely right. He phones up the wife and says, don't even think about cooking dinner tonight. Where in the money? I'm going to take you out to that fancy Italian place that was written up in last night's paper. We're going to have a slap-up meal. We're going to have French champagne, the good stuff. We are going to have a great time. Now when he's thinking that we are going to have a great time, I'll let you in on a secret. He's thinking sex all night long. Oh yeah. Now all the research shows that the most realistic people are in fact the mild pessimists, the number threes. The optimists are unrealistic. And the supreme optimists, yeah, dream on. Ask a number three, what's likely going to happen? The Italian restaurant's going to be fully booked. So they'll go somewhere else, and the steak's going to be overcooked. He's going to have far too much to drink. Instead of getting great sex, or any sex, he'll have a thumping hangover and a nagging from the wife in the morning. But the difference is that the optimist can bounce back and think, oh, I stuffed it up last night. Anyway, I've still got money left over. I'll make a reservation early for the Italian place for tonight. I'll lay off the booze, I'll lay on the condoms, and yeah, tonight's the night. Whoa! No, they're astonishing, but they're so unrealistic. Absolutely. The supreme optimists. So those of you who said you were a number 6, whoa, supremely unrealistic. Now my particular interest in this is its application to a condition called postnatal depression. And approximately 10% of New Zealand women will have suffered from postnatal depression. And I'm pretty sure that there are people in this room who have had postnatal depression, given the number of women in this room.
And me.
A man with postnatal depression is a very unusual thing. Now, I used to work as a GP in Waikanae, and I used to go and visit every woman that had a baby. And I waited till her baby cried. And then I asked a why question. I said, why does your baby cry so much? And if she said, oh, because I'm a bad mother. Because I don't know how to look after babies. What sort of answer was that? Personal. I said, no, baby's crying because it's hungry or thirsty or needing picked up. Impersonal. And she said, baby's always crying, day and night. Do you reckon it's got colic? I would say, baby's crying now. So pick it up, feed it, clothe it, change it. And when it stops crying, put it back down. Temporary, rather than permanent. And she said, I haven't made the dinner, I haven't tidied up the house. Look at the mess. I'm a useless wife and a mother. I would say, you've got a sick baby. That's why I'm here. Cuddle your baby. Care for your baby. Phone up your husband. Ask him to bring home fish and chips on the way home. Right? Think specifically rather than globally and pervasively. Now, not one, I started to teach this when I was teaching people hypnosis for childbirth, and I included this in the treatment session. Not one of the 900 women developed postnatal depression. Now, when you treat 900 people, and there's a 10% incidence, that's astonishing. And if someone's had postnatal depression, the chance of recurrence in a subsequent pregnancy is as high as 50%. And none of those women who'd learned these skills developed postnatal depression. And I was talking about this at a conference, and the visiting American speaker said, you should present this stuff at the Brief Therapy Conference in New York. And I laughed when he said that. Because the Brief Therapy Conference is like the Olympics of psychology. They hold it every 4 years, always in America. And there's an audience of 7,000 clinicians. And there's only 24 invited speakers. About 700 people apply to be a speaker. It's a prestigious honour to be chosen. And they choose it blindly. You put in 9 copies of a submission of what you want to talk about. And a panel of 9 professors reads through it without knowing who submitted. And they choose the top 24 proposals. So I said, well, okay, I'll apply. Well, 2 weeks later he phoned me up and said, have you applied? I said, well, not yet. He said, I'm going to phone you every single day till you tell me you've applied. So I sent off the thing. And 3 months later I got a letter back from Arizona. Dear Dr. McCarthy, you've been chosen as one of the 24 speakers. By the way, you're the only non-American on the programme. And we've sent this letter to your address. Why can I, New Zealand? We can't find it on the map. But if you're reading these words, it must have reached you. So I sat down to write the actual speech, and I got writer's block. You ever had writer's block? Or you write something and go, oh, that's not good enough. Delete, 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 backspace, backspace, backspace. After an hour, my wife came in and said, how are you getting on with the speech? I said, I haven't even got a title for it yet. And she said, I thought that might happen. Here's a pair of garden shears. I want you to clip the hedge. You can clip the hedge and still think about your speech at the same time. I'm married to a very practical Scottish lady. So I was clipping away at the hedge, and our next door neighbour came out to peg up her washing. Now she's a young woman, 2 small children under the age of 5. She's not a patient of mine. And she's had postnatal depression after each of those 2 little boys. Now she was pegging up washing. I have never seen someone pegging up washing that quickly before. Her fingers were a blur of knickers and nappies and pegs. And she dropped 2 of the pegs. Well, no wonder going at rocket speed. And she picked them off the ground. She turned round to me with a sigh of exasperation and said, oh, I'm always dropping things. And those 4 words hit me like a ton of bricks. Her bad thing wasn't losing her job. Her bad thing was dropping 2 pegs. Pretty trivial. But I wonder, were you listening carefully? Did you hear her attributional style as to why this happened? What did she say? She said, I'm. What's that? Personal. She said, I'm always. What's that? Permanent. And did she say, I'm always dropping pegs? I'm always dropping things. What's that? Pervasive. I thought, wow. It applies to little things as well. And if Seligman was correct, then an optimist who dropped 2 pegs would have to give an explanation that was impersonal, temporary, and specific. And I thought for a moment, came up with, oh, these cheap plastic pegs from the warehouse sometimes slip. It's the peg's fault. Sometimes, not every time. And just the cheap plastic ones, not the wooden ones, no. Then she rushed back into the house. And I wondered, why was she in such a rush? Maybe she left some muffins on in the oven. Say she goes back in and the muffins are a little bit crispy on top. What will a pessimist think? Oh, that's typical. I can never cook anything. Everything gets ruined in my kitchen. Optimist, on the other hand, has to think totally differently. Optimist thinks, oh, that's a surprise. The oven must have been a bit hot today. Anyway, I can fix them. I'm going to chop the tops off them. I'm going to put a bit of cream and then jam on them. And I'm going to call them Maisie's Mount Ruapehu volcanic muffins. And everyone will think I'm really creative. And if the muffins turn out really well, the pessimist is thinking, whew, that's lucky, just saved them in time before they get ruined as usual. Optimist is thinking, of course they turned out well. I'm a fantastic cook. What else would you expect? So I put the clippers down, raced back into the house, and started writing the speech. Now 3 months later, I'm over at New York. And it's the morning of my speech. And I'm sitting in the breakfast room, trying to eat bacon and eggs, with a heart rate of about 100 beats a minute. Because I'd never spoken to 7,000 people before, all experts in the field. And I hadn't realised that every other speaker was not just an American, but an American professor. Oh. And a woman at the table next to me turned around and said, "Are you that doctor from New Zealand?" And in my best Kiwi accent, I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, we have driven all the way up from Alabama just to hear you talk." She said, "Baby number 3's on the way, and with the last 2 had severe postnatal depression. And this idea that you can learn to change your whole style of thinking to become immune to depression, well, it's just too good to be true." I thought, oh, too good to be true. And she said, "Yeah, there's hundreds of people flown in from all over America, especially for your talk. Everyone's asking, why has the committee chosen a nobody?" What? You've never written a book, you've never written any article. What? Yeah, well, and you're the only non-American. What? Then she reached across to get a bit of toast, and she knocked over a coffee cup. And the black coffee went all over the white linen tablecloth. And she leapt to her feet and said, "Oh, I'm such a klutz. I'm always doing things like that." I thought, ooh, I'm always doing things like that. See, once you tune into it, it's like hearing an accent. Is that a Japanese accent? No. Is that a Cantonese accent? No, folks, it's a Pessimese accent. She was a southern woman, but she had a pessimistic style of thinking. And 5 minutes later, another woman knocked over a coffee cup. And she jumped to her feet and said, "Oh, damn these silly cups. Oh, well, accidents happen. Waiter, give us another table." I thought, whoa, there's an optimist for you. Went across, spoke to her husband and said, "Does your wife ever get anxious or depressed?" And he goes, "Nothing gets her down. She's a Southern Baptist. She's got great faith. When everything goes wrong, she always says, the Lord will provide. Now me, I get down, but nothing gets her down. She is sunny and, oh yeah. I said, she is a supremely optimistic person. He said, yeah, how did you know that? I said, because of what she said when she knocked over the coffee cup. He said, you could deduce that from one sentence? I said, that was enough. He said, well, you must be that guy from New Zealand. That's talking at 11 o'clock this morning. I said, yeah. He said, well, why do you talk like Billy Connolly? I said, oh, because I came from Scotland and I've been to New Zealand. I said, are you coming to the speech? He said, oh, yeah. Now, when I got there, word had got round. It was standing room only. Wow. And when I finished the speech, an amazing thing happened, which ain't going to happen here. They rose to their feet in unison. They thumped their hands and feet. And this wall of sound tsunami'd me at the podium. And I went, shucks. And I'm thinking, oh, you're just doing this because you're Americans. You're just doing this because you know I've travelled such a long way. you know, you're just doing this to be kind because you know I'm not really a professor. And the chairman's going, wow, are all you Kiwis this good? No wonder you've got that great rugby team, that great yacht team. Oh, you must take questions. That's what the chairman said. You must take questions at the end. Yeah. And then I saw in the front row this little old man sitting there, refusing to join in the standing ovation. And a scowl on his face. And I looked and recognised it. I said to the chairman, you take the questions, I'll be back 1 minute. Went down to the front row and I said, Professor Seligman? He said, yep. I said, you seem annoyed. He said, I'm furious. Why? He said, well, when I saw in the programme 6 weeks ago what you were going to talk about, how you were going to take my ideas, I wanted to know how you'd expanded on them. But in the very first minute of your speech, the batteries of my hearing aid died. I could not hear a word, even from the front row. And I knew if I stood up and walked out, everyone would recognise me and think I was being derogatory. Well, I couldn't do that to you. And I didn't have a cell phone on me to phone someone and say, can you bring batteries quickly? And for the last 20 minutes, I've been sitting here hoping it was a bad speech. So I hadn't missed anything. But you've had the first standing ovation of the week. And the guys that I heard on Monday and Tuesday from Harvard and Yale, who were fantastic, they didn't get a reception like that. So the reason that I'm really annoyed is because the moment you sit down from answering the questions, everyone's going to be asking me what I thought of the speech. And I'm the only person in the room that never heard it. I said, I've got a copy in my bag, would you like to read it? He said, oh, yeah, get the chairman to send it down and you take the first question. Now, as I took the first question, that's the precise moment that it dawned on me that I was a pessimist. There were 6,999 people cheering wildly. Was I doing the optimistic thing? Yes. Nailed it. You guys are really lucky to be here today. I wasn't doing that at all. I was doing the impersonal for praise. Oh, you're just doing this because you're Americans. You're just doing this to be kind. Right? I was taking no credit for it whatsoever. They were just being generous. And when one person's not cheering, am I thinking, oh, he must be deaf or thick, as an optimist would? I was thinking, oh, he's the world expert. He must hate it. I must have offended him. Oh no. Now once he read the thing, he said, you have taken my ideas. I talked in my book about bereavement and redundancy and financial disaster. But you've brought it down to muffins and pegs and daily things. And you've shown that this process applies in a far more widespread way than I even realised. I said, yeah. He said, oh, do you mind if I put this in the next edition of the book? I said, please do. It's really important. Now, according to Seligman, we learn this style of thinking before the age of 5. It's not genetic. It's always learned. So guess who we learn it from before the age of 5? Our parents. Now, both of my parents were a bit pessimistic, but my father particularly so. To give you an example, I remember when I was 12, I sat a thing called the Scottish Maths Test. Now the Scottish Maths Test is sat by everyone in the country, and it determines which class you go into at college. I scored 99%. Now to put that in some sort of context, no one else in my school scored over 70. So my teacher said, go and tell your father that you scored 99%. Now my father was a welder in the shipyards. Left school at 14. You can imagine how many academic qualifications my father has. None. I love him dearly. I went home, I said, Dad, I got 99 for the national math test. And he said, did I just hear you right? Did you say you scored 99? I said, yeah. He said, just the one wrong. Better luck next time, son. He had focused on the one that was wrong, rather than on the 99 that were right. Well, is it any wonder, therefore, that 30 years later in New York, I'm focusing on the one on his bum, rather than the thousands on their feet. But what else did he say? Better luck. Well, the inference surely was that I only got the 99 because of sheer impersonal luck. If he'd said brains, study, concentration, effort, that had been personal, but he didn't. He said luck. And then he said, better luck next time. There wouldn't be a next time. It was never ever going to be repeated. I would always have stuffed it up by one. I felt that I had let him down, because I misread one question. I actually knew the answer. And they gave out a gold medal to the 3 people in Scotland who got 100%. I don't have a gold medal. I didn't get anything, because I only got 99. Now, even though I'm an expert in this, 2 years ago my daughter came home from school and said, Dad, you'll never believe it, I get 29 out of 30 for the French test. I said, just the one wrong. Have you ever said something to a child of yours that you swore blind you would never say? I said, forgive me. Let's start again. Delete. Fantastic score. You've worked really hard at that vocabulary, you've done really well, you're an excellent student and a scholar, you'll go to university, you'll be fantastic. In fact, I've just realised that when I get run down and tired, I default to the thinking style of a 4-year-old. So I tell you what, let's all go out and I'm going to teach my 3 daughters all about the 3 P's. So let's do that at the 4th P, Pizza Hut. And over dinner I explained what I've taught you people. And at the end I said, now girls, you're over the age of 5 now, and you'll have picked up some pessimism from your mother and myself. So I tell you what, if I say something which is pessimistic, and you can point it out to me that I've said something pessimistic, and if you can give me the optimistic translation, I will give you $1. They said, every time? But remember, these are the children of Scottish parents. I said, for the next 3 months, every time. They said, when does it start? I said, now. Anyway, I need to write a cheque for this thing. Now, where did I put that bloody pen? And daughter number 2 said, that by $1, please. And I said, no, I have to say something pessimistic. She said, you did? I said, no, wait a minute. I said, where did I put that bloody pen? No, I don't get it. What would an optimist have said? He said, well, an optimist would surely have said, where did that bloody pen get to? They would have blamed it on the naughty pen, deliberately hiding itself somewhere. Not very realistic, I grant you. But you said, where did I put that bloody... You were doing it pen... You've just earned yourself $1. And I took $1 out of my pocket and I dropped it. I said, oops, I dropped it. He said, huh, make it $2. Oh, fair's fair. I did drop it. Oh, that's not pessimistic, that's fact. I said, no, it slipped. It slipped versus I dropped it. Now, over the next 3 months, I shelled out $800. I had no idea how pessimistic I was. I don't regret a cent. I spent far more than that to send them to Marsden School. To be well educated. 3 months later, I had 3 bilingual daughters who could spot pessimism at 100 yards. And I wrote to Martin Seligman and I said, you know how I took it to another level? Well, I've got 3 daughters who take it to a linguistic level. And he said, you mean this can be in almost every sentence that we speak? I said, yeah. He said, whoa. We've just published the 2nd edition, we're going to have a 3rd edition. Oh, give me their names because I need to put it in the book. Now, my wife's a school teacher at Marsden, and she gave some kids a math test, and she put in one very difficult question. 2 girls couldn't answer it, and she said, why did you not do that question? One girl said, because I'm no use at maths, miss. And the other one said, because number 14 was a particularly difficult geometry question. Can you spot which one's the pessimist? Which one's the optimist? And when she met both the mothers, she said, oh, I know where they get it from. Absolutely. Now, I could go on talking and talking about this. But really, what you need to do is you need to listen to this and think, which number am I really? I am a number 2. My core is moderate pessimism. But you probably wouldn't pick that. Why would a pessimist go and speak to audiences? Because I have worked at becoming bilingual. Now, the thing that scared me most in life, believe it or not, was public speaking. So I decided 3 years ago to join Toastmasters, use my optimism, and I said to my wife, I want to be the New Zealand champion Toastmaster. And 2 years ago, I was the Wellington champion. And I got to the national final. But I didn't win. I came second in New Zealand. And last year, I was the Wellington champion again. And I got to the national final. And I came third. Shonky judging. And in 48 hours in Christchurch, it's the national championship again. And I'm the Wellington champion again. And for the third time in a row, I'm going for it. I'm going for it. And I'm going to meet the other 6 champions from around the country. And the same shonky judges. If I was a pessimist, I'd think, what's the point? No, I'm going there. Even though I'm a number 2, I'm going to go for that. And look, if we've got enough time left over after the questions, it's a 7-minute speech. I'll give you that as an encore if you want. Okay, let's take some questions.
Can you change?
Sorry?
Can people change their position significantly?
Look, this is like learning another language. If you've only ever spoken English, then that's the only language you can speak. But if you learn to speak French, then you can choose to speak French. Is it easy? No. Is it hard work to learn the language? Yes. If you immerse yourself in it, then you can become more and more optimistic. How do you immerse yourself in optimism living in New Zealand when 90% of Kiwis are truly on this side of the ledger? The only place in the world where optimists outnumber pessimists is California. Right? But they are shockingly unrealistic. You can do this. Now the best way to do this is to get a copy of Martin Seligman's book, Learned Optimism, and read this and understand it. The other thing is, as an optimist, the last time I came here, some of you might remember, I recorded the speech. And I was giving CDs of the speech. I'm doing that again. So if any of you think, oh, I wish my husband or wife or son or daughter could learn this, and oh my God, I've taught them pessimism. If you want, contact me afterwards and you can get a copy of this entire presentation on CD. Right? That's how I make money. I ain't going to get money from Probus. Yes?
Yeah, look, I'll confess, I'd say I'm a number 2 pessimist. I grew up in the school, probably grew up at Snows, and that covers a lot of things. But I do wonder, in your talk, Where you allow the position for personal responsibility. If everything's always somebody else's fault, when do you take responsibility?
Okay. Number sixes take no personal responsibility. I am not advocating being a number 6. No, the key is to be between 3 and 5, between mild pessimism and moderate optimism. And to fluctuate along here depending on the circumstance. Now when there's no risk to you, then be on the mild to moderate optimist and take a chance. There's no huge risk to me to compete in this competition on Sunday. Take a chance, go for it, right? But where there's a risk to you, where it's important to be honest and fess up, be on the mild pessimism side. Now the healthy zone is between here and here. I'm a wee bit too much here. I'm what you call a successful pessimist. Right? And there's a lot of us around. A successful pessimist. These are people who've got a core of pessimism. They are number 1s and 2s at their core. But they've got a veneer of optimism on the surface. And they're chirpy, and they're happy. And they think that they're optimistic. They put their hands up and say, I'm a 4, I'm a 5, I'm a 6. But they're not really. No. They've got a core of pessimism. But as soon as they feel out of control in their life, the spouse dies. Or God forbid, their child dies. That veneer slides off. And that core of pessimism comes out. And people who've gone through their teens and their 20s and their 30s and their 40s, triumphant, can be totally depressed in their 50s. But if they were supremely optimistic, they could never be like that. Yes?
I think I am more optimistic in the morning than in the evening.
Well, look,
And another question, which is maybe go to me, you have to be optimist with your full stomach. I can put it that way. It is maybe very funny, but for example, I don't like to use again the word. I'm a survivor, and I don't know in a camp how much optimism we could have because we were hungry.
When you are faced with adversity, it is very, very difficult to maintain optimism. But honestly, if you come from an optimistic background where your parents are incredibly optimistic, even in the midst of the most unspeakable horrors, you can still have a belief that you'll make it through in the end. It's like the woman who knocked the coffee cup over, who said, it's only an accident, things will change, be absolutely fine. Now, we're nearly all a bit more optimistic in the morning because life hasn't happened to us yet. Right? We haven't dropped the pegs, we haven't burned the muffins. It's only when these things happen that it kicks in. Now, you can always spot a successful pessimist because their driving force in life is not fame or glory or money. Do you know what their driving force is? Fear of failure. Fear of failure. That's what drives them. And they work so hard. They cross the T's, they dot the I's, so they will not stuff up. So no one can point the finger at them, or they point the finger at themselves. And they've failed. Yeah. Now, one of the reasons that when I seek to do something, I seek to do it to the absolute top level in the country, is, believe it or not, fear of failure. Why I become a successful speaker is I have to be good, otherwise I would fail. So I have to be the best. It's an amazing sort of thing, absolutely astonishing. Last month I took up acting lessons. And already I've had a part in 2 movies. And I've said to my wife, I want to win an acting award before I retire. She goes, oh, could you not just do it low key? No, I'm really going to go for it. Yes?
I'm an optimist, and I wonder where you got the 90% statistic about New Zealanders being pessimistic. I'm optimistic enough to doubt their credibility.
Okay. When you test with questionnaires, there's a questionnaire called the Attributional Style Questionnaire, and you can test this. There are so many people who would claim, no, I am an optimist. And when their life is going well, they truly do appear to be optimistic. But when you really put the pressure on, when they feel out of control, 90% of Kiwis, it's astonishing. When the pressure is put on, seriously, they go like that. West Germans are much more optimistic than East Germans. People who have lived in regimes which are totalitarian are more pessimistic. People who've got more sense of freedom and individuality are more optimistic. But some people, as was alluded to, take no responsibility at all. These are your supreme optimists. They are dangerous people. They are dangerous people. You don't want. These are the megalomaniacs in life sometimes, right? But trouble is, we vote for optimists. We don't vote for people who say, hey, it's going to be tough, right? Now we vote for people like Winston Peters. Oh, gee. But that man is a supreme optimist. When you're facing 3% in the polls, he can still come bouncing back. He's the most optimistic politician in the country. Yeah. Yes.
Can we have your 7 minutes worth, please?
Oh. Yes, because there's only 5 minutes to go. Okay. The speech is entitled, No One Can Make You Angry. I am a married man, the father of 3 daughters, and I sometimes lose my temper. You may relate well to this story. It begins 12 years ago when I was invited to give a prestigious address to a medical conference in New York. The conference was in October, and the invitation arrived in March. But for some inexplicable reason, I deferred writing the speech. Suddenly, it was the day before my flight, and I said to my daughters, girls, please be quiet. Daddy's got something very important to do. Oh, we will be quiet. I started typing. Words flowed like a fountain. Oh, this was easy. Why had it delayed? Suddenly there was the sound of girly squeals. Oh, girls, please, be quiet. I told you this is important. Back to the typing. More and more words flowing. Concentration broken by, stop it, stop it. I was out. Now, girls, don't want to tell you again. No more. Okay. Fantastic quotation forming, but lost forever with a squeal of, that's my Barbie doll. No, that's my Barbie doll. I was furious. I sized up the situation instantly. Older sister antagonizing younger sister. I smacked her on the back of the hand and roared, go to your room. Then my wife popped her head round the corner and said, can I have a word? A word in the bedroom. Now, a word from my wife in the privacy of the bedroom means that I'm in deep trouble. And folks, it's never just word. She started with a question. How long have you been a doctor? That was unexpected. I said 15 years. And in that time, have you ever had any horrible, obnoxious patients? I said, well, of course. And have you ever struck a patient? I said, well, no, you don't hit your patients. Well, can you explain to me why you've just treated your firstborn child worse than your worst ever patient of 15 years? Well, she was right. I just momentarily lost control. She said, no. Had you lost control, you would have punched her. That violence was totally controlled. Oh, she was right. She made me angry. 3 times I asked her to be quiet. She said, no. You made yourself angry. You know you should have written that speech 3 months ago. You took out your own frustration, at your procrastination on her. She was right. She said, Eleanor Roosevelt once said that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Well, I'm telling you that no one can make you angry without your consent. No one puts angry thoughts inside your head. Only schizophrenics believe that. I said, I'll go and apologise. Well, the next morning I was still furiously typing away at the speech. Same daughter was drying the dishes. And there was a whoops and a smash. And one of her best plates was in 100 pieces. I went, and then I saw it. As our gaze met, a look in her eyes that I hope you never ever see. It was a look of apprehension, bordering on fear. I was ashamed. Instantly I knew what to do. Are you all right? Did it cut you? It's no big deal, it's only a plate. Here, I'll sweep it up. You go off and play. And then my wife popped her head around the corner and said, can I have a word? She said, when I heard the smash and the indrawing of breath, I waited for you to hammer another nail in the coffin of your relationship with her daughter. Then I heard you screech to a halt and change direction. And then I heard it. The voice of the man that I chose to marry all those years ago. The man that I chose to be the father of our children. To end, I've shared a tale with you of which I'm not proud. But I'm proud of one thing. I'm proud to be married to the wisest, most omniscient woman in the world, who taught me, and I have shared with you, that no one can make you angry without your consent. No one puts angry thoughts in your head. No one can make you angry.